Hi, I'm Heather Hubbard. I went from being a lawyer and partner at one of the largest firms in America to becoming an online personality and successful entrepreneur. I know what it takes to rise to the top. I also know all too well the toll it can take on your health and personal life. So, how do you shine bright without burning out? How do you chase joy while achieving success? You're listening to the Hustle and Flow podcast. Welcome back to Hustle and Flow. I am your host, Heather Hubbard, and we are on episode 224. Happy New Year. I guess technically, if you are listening when this is released, it is New Year's Eve. And this is my favorite time of year. I am a Capricorn. My birthday is December 28th. So I was born in the energy of setting goals. Capricorns, we are all about just dogged determination, achieving really big things, and creating the structure and plans to make it happen. So I sometimes like to joke that I am a professional goal smasher. And today I want to help you do the exact same thing. Even if you're not a Capricorn, even if you tend to, fall off when it comes to your goals, you create a plan, but you don't actually follow through on the plan. I've got you. Today, I have got you. And you don't have to be me or become me because I'm going to share with you my top 3 hacks for sticking with and reaching your New Year goals. So I have some stats for you. I recorded a podcast episode, oh my goodness, a really long time ago. I'm not even sure. It might have been like the very first year. It might have been in 2017, maybe 2018. I don't remember. But I shared some statistics then, and it's been updated a little bit. And of course, as you know, with statistics, who really knows the truth? But I do think it's very informative. So, first and foremost, the amount of people who just stop, right? Like they quit. They don't follow through with their resolutions or goals. They just give up. It is 23% after the first week. Like they don't even stick with it for 7 days. They're like, well, that was a good idea. But here's the thing. It's more than a good idea. It's just really, really hard to add things on and to make changes while you're also living your life. And so what might have seemed like a good idea you just get overwhelmed. Life comes at you and you're just like, fuck it. Right? Like, whatever. I'll get back to this later. And you don't. Okay. So 23%. And then the stat used to be that 50% would fall off by 3 months. But I recently read that it's actually 43% by the end of January. And that actually sounds more accurate to me. Whether it's 30 days or 90 days, half of the people are going to fall off and just give up. Whether they choose to give up, like it's a decision, or they just get so busy with other things that they never focus on it. And so it might not have actually been a decision. It was just something that kind of happened. And I think that's what actually happens to a lot of people. Okay. Only 8%, this has not changed. Only 8% reach their goals. So if you set a goal in January for the new year, there's an only 8% chance that you're actually going to reach that goal by the end of the year. Now, here's the wild part to me. 80% of people who set goals for the beginning of the year are confident that they will stick with it. They are confident that they will reach the goal. And that part is wild to me because I think when we look at these statistics, we assume that people, like they're half-hearted about it. They're not really that committed. Maybe they're not high achievers. But when you look at the fact that 80% are like, no, I've got this. I'm totally going to do this. I'm totally going to be in the 8%. And that's just not true, right? Like the vast majority don't do it. So if 80% feel confident, that tells me that they're motivated. 80% are motivated. And I'm not actually going to cover this in today's episode, but if you're interested in it, go back and listen. It was episode number 99, Changing Your Habits. And that was a New Year's episode years ago where I talked about how when you are going to change something, a lot, like especially with health, like some people are quitting things, and then other people, they're just starting a new habit. They're adding something into their life, that their routine that's not already there. Whether you are quitting or you are starting, that has to be a habit from a neuroscience perspective, just the way the brain works. And let me tell you, habits are not easy to form, and habits are not easy to break. So it doesn't matter your motivation. It doesn't matter your willpower. It doesn't matter your discipline. If you don't understand the science behind it, it's really hard to actually make it happen. And if you do understand the science behind it, it's much, much easier to make it happen. But most importantly, you don't get down on yourself. You don't judge yourself for something that has nothing to do with willpower. Okay. So if that's an issue for you, go back and listen to it. Go check it out, episode 99. Okay, but today we're going to talk about the 3 hacks so that you actually stick with it and you actually follow through, because I know you want this. I know you've got the motivation to do this. Although I will say, there was another stat that I actually found interesting, which was that 62% of people feel pressured to set New Year goals. Personally, I think as a high achiever, maybe as a Capricorn, I mean, my whole business is founded on personal and professional growth, right? I believe that when you are constantly growing, when you are constantly seeking, it makes you a happier person. It gives you something to focus on. It allows you to continue to evolve. That said, I am not a fan of doing things because you feel like you should. If you're feeling pressure, that makes me think that it's less about the goal setting and the actual goals that you're setting. It's the shoulds, what you should be doing. And I want you to let that shit go. And we're going to talk about that in the 3 hacks today, because they were already built in. They're part of it. That's what it's all about. So I have my whiteboard for today. This is the very first time I have used a whiteboard, and I'm embarrassed to admit how long it took me to get all of this set up. And I actually wanted to do it another way. And I finally figured out how to do it this way. And so that's what we're going with. If you are listening to the audio only version, this is one where you might want to go watch it on YouTube. Otherwise, I'm going to be talking about these drawings that I'm doing, and you can hear it. But if you actually want to visualize it, head on over to YouTube. I'll put a link in the show notes for you. Okay, so the first hack is to create a strategy pyramid. I have been preaching about, talking about the strategy pyramid since, my goodness, I started this company 10 years ago. I'm going to draw for you what it is so that you can check. I'm assuming you already have goals, you already have resolutions. And if you attended the planning extravaganza, we already went through this. But for those of you who did not, you really want to make sure that your goals follow this outline. This is going to be the difference between plateauing and dropping off within a week or two or a month versus going the distance. Okay, we're going to start with the bottom of the pyramid. At the bottom of the pyramid, we have tasks. Now, if you look at this, it doesn't look like a pyramid at all at the moment. But the point is, you can see you're going to plateau. You're not going to move up. When you think of your goals, when you think of your vision, when you think of the life that you want, it's kind of like climbing a mountain. And this is just a little bitty mound. Most people spend their time at the task level. And if you spend your time at the task level, you are going to plateau. Now, what do I mean by the task level? What do you do on a day-to-day basis? Answer the phone, get on social media, pick up the kids, do your laundry, do the work assigned to you, right? Like you're just doing. You're reacting. When you're focused on tasks and tasks only, right? You're just trying to get through the day, you are going to plateau, because there is never enough time to focus on what you want and your vision. And again, this is why 80% of people, they're confident that they're going to reach their goals because they think that it's just about how bad do I want this? Well, you might want something really, really bad. But if you continue to just focus on the day-to-day and what's coming your way, you're just focused on the task level, you are going to plateau. Okay. All right. So what's the next level above? This level is the project level. Now, as you can see, we've gone a little bit higher, right? We're we've not plateaued at the top of the task, but we have plateaued at the top of the project, right? We're still not at the top of that mountain. So what is a project? A project is something that if you set your mind to do it, you know you can do it. You just have to map it out. You might need a plan. So, a project for the year might be we're going to have more dinners each and every evening. So, that's a project because it's not one and done. So the tasks underneath that might be a lot of different things. It might be coordinating schedules. It might be picking a time. It might be who's going to the grocery store, who's cooking. There's a lot of different things that goes with that. Another project might be that you are going to take more family vacations. Another project, this happens naturally at work. You might have a project where it's like, oh, we have to accomplish this thing. We have to get this thing out the door. And it's just a matter of doing it, right? Like you can totally do it, but there's a million tasks that have to happen underneath it. So there's a little bit of project planning for everyone to be coordinated, even if it's just you yourself. It generally requires a little bit of thinking ahead, but again, you're still going to plateau. All right. So if we move on up, we're then going to get, by the way, I don't know that my drawing's too great, but that doesn't matter. I just want you to be able to see it. Then you move to your goals. Okay. Now look, you've already said that you've got a goal. So you're doing better than most, right? But here's the thing. You're still going to plateau. So what your goal might be, let's say your project, right, was related to, and most people do this backwards, but I just like you to see where you actually spend your time. So if your goal is to, again, we said have more dinners with your family, the goal might be have dinner. Everyone sits down together at least 5 days a week. So there's actually something associated with it. Like, what are we actually trying to accomplish? That's the goal. Or maybe the goal is to eat 3 healthy meals a week with the family at home, sitting at the dining room table. There's generally numbers attached to it. It's a very specific thing we're doing. And then again, the projects and the tasks support it, but you're still going to plateau. What? Okay. You may do it. Right? You get all the tasks done, you get the projects done, you reach your goal. You reach your goal and you still plateau. How is that possible? Well, it may be possible because have you ever reached a goal and you thought, oh, when this happens, like this will change everything. It's going to make me, when this happens, I'll finally be happy. When I lose this weight, I'll finally be able to go out and do public speaking, right? We've all had thoughts like that. And then we lose the weight and we still don't go out and do the public speaking, because that was not really the issue to begin with. So this is how you may reach the goal, but you're still not satisfied. All right. So here's where we're going to go up one more, and you've got strategy. Now, a lot of people, their goal is their strategy. They don't realize they're doing it, but that's what they're doing. They say, we're going to have this many, we're going to have dinner this many times a week, or, maybe the goal is I'm going to have a number one podcast. I'm going to release a podcast and it's going to be a number one on Apple. Go girl. I don't know how to do that, but I bet you can. Do it. Okay. So here's the thing with the goal. It is not guaranteed. It is not guaranteed. Okay. I love football. And so right now we are getting ready to go into the playoffs. And so every team has the same goal of winning the Super Bowl, but only one team can actually win. So even if you do all the right things, even if you put in all the reps, there is no guarantee that you're actually going to meet a goal if you're setting the goal right. Otherwise, you've just got a project. So you got your tasks, your projects. Again, project and tasks can get done if you just do them. The goal, you don't know if it's going to happen or not, even if you do all the right things. And then you move up to the strategy. But again, where I'm saying goals and strategy are often interrelated, someone will say, I'm going to have dinner 5 times a week with my kids. I'm going to have this number one podcast. When the truth is, that's not actually what they're going for. They're going for potentially more meaningful relationships with their family. What they're going for is a marketing tool to get more clients. And their goal just naturally incorporated a strategy that they never really thought through. So this is where you really have to break it down. And here's the reason why, because we don't often do the thing that makes the most sense to get us where we want to go. We do the most obvious thing, or the thing that we just think of first. When we do that, we're not often setting the right goals and we're often not using the right strategies. One of the things that we did in the planning extravaganza, we brainstormed strategies, even if everyone already had the strategy they wanted to use. And then we went into breakout rooms to get feedback. And I loved something we're not doing here today on this podcast. We then did stress tests with our strategies, which are specific to you. Specific to you. So many people just go out there and say, well, how did someone else do it? I'm going to follow their plan. I'm going to mimic what they do. That is a recipe for disaster. And here's why: they're not you and you're not them. It doesn't take into account your DNA. It does not take into account your personality. It does not take into account your habits, your routines, your passions, your motivations, the way that your life works. And so you can look to people as inspiration and to show you what's possible, but please, please, please don't adopt what they did. I mean, a million people sell that, right? I did it, so you can do it too. And I always do this right in my growth accelerator programs, or, even Joy in the Journey, whether it's business or life. I don't want you to do what I did. I want you to figure out what's going to work for you. When I'm developing someone's strategy, I never think, well, what did I do that worked? Or what would I want to do? No, I need to know that person. I need to know their business. I need to know their life. I need to know their motivations. Don't just go out trying to do what other people have done. You don't know what's going on behind the scene. I'm sure you've seen like the iceberg photo, right? You have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. And just because it worked for them does not mean that it will work for you. So one person in the planning extravaganza, we got the stress test back and she was like, oh my gosh, I had this goal, which again, it just naturally enveloped the strategy that she was going to do without having really thought through separating those two things out to begin with. And she was like, this was just what I was going to do. And now that I've gone through this, I'm realizing that's not actually the best or easiest or most effective way to go about achieving what I really want, which takes us to the top of our pyramid. And that is vision. Okay, so normally my pyramid looks a little better than this, but because I blocked them out, I wanted you to be able to see the whole concept of what it looks like to plateau. You really have to have this long-term vision. What is it that you're actually wanting to achieve in your life? And this is why, when we were talking about the 64%, by the way, women feel 64%, men are 60%, which is why in the middle is 62% of feeling pressure to do things. If you set a goal based on what you think you should be doing, I guarantee you're going to plateau because that's not your vision. That is not your vision. What do you want for your life? It may be related to business and career. It may have nothing to do with that. There is zero judgment when it comes to vision. It is your vision and your vision alone. And so what we want to do when we're setting goals is start with the vision first. If you cannot explain how your goal or your resolution for the year is actually going to support your long-term vision, then you're probably going to struggle. You don't have a clear why. You don't have a clear motivator. And look, again, going back to episode 99, it is hard to change a habit, super hard, whether you're quitting or you're starting. And so if you don't have a clear vision, if you can't remind yourself on a daily basis why it is you're doing what you're doing, you're going to stop. You're going to quit. You're going to totally fall back into the task level. And look, here's what's really wild. All right. So 80% of people, no, 92, I'm getting my math. 92% of people stay down here at the project and task level. 8% reach their goals. But my question is, even if you reach that goal, are you happy? Because look, like I said, I'm a professional goal smasher, but for many, many years, it was not aligned with the vision. It was just aligned with achievement. And that's where you get to the place where you're like, what am I doing with my life? You get burnout and you are not happy, even though you're meeting all of your goals. So we want to move up here to the very top, where we can complete our pyramid and get to the top of the mountain. Okay, that's the first hack. Make sure that it is all aligned. The second hack to help you reach your goals, and this is related to what we were just talking about with the strategy pyramid, that is you want to use what I call the goals ladder. With my little trademark there. Okay, this is also, I've been doing this for as long as I've been doing the strategy pyramid. By the way, I have taught this to a ton of different law firms, but also Fortune 500 companies. So it works. It works. All right. So here's what we're going to do with the goals ladder. And this relates to your vision. Just create you a little ladder. I mean, that looks like a ladder, right? I would think so. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. And what you're going to do is at the top of that ladder, you are going to write your goal. Now, we had two goals previously, so we're actually, let's do two ladders. We'll walk through examples for each. Why not? All right. So we said we're going to have dinner with the family, and then we're going to have a podcast. Number one podcast. Okay. So you put your goal at the very top of the ladder because we generally just jump right up there. But if you don't have a good foundation in place, and there's right, like if it's not rooted, if you don't have someone supporting you, you might fall off the ladder. And I don't want you to do that. So what we got to do is we got to climb back down. Again, it's kind of like with the strategy. Most people just go right to that middle part without really thinking through why they're doing what they're doing. So let's start with the dinner. And let's just go through some examples. You may have different examples than I do, which is the whole point of the goals ladder. It is individual to each and every person. There is no right or wrong way to do this. There's only the truth. What's real for you? How honest can you be with yourself? All right. So we're going to sit down and have dinner with the family 5 times a week. Why do I want that goal? Why do I want that goal? Okay. We want to spend more time together. Spend time together. Okay, great. So the next question I would ask someone that tells me they want to spend more time together is why? Why do you want to spend more time together? Why would you want to do that? I'm joking. I mean, I really do need to know why, but I'm being a little facetious in the way that I am approaching that. All right. So, why do you want to spend more time? Again, this could be different for everyone, but maybe it's like, I feel like everyone's running in a million different directions and we aren't really having meaningful conversations. All right. Wonderful. So, we want to have meaningful conversations. Okay, wonderful. Why? Why do you want to have meaningful conversations? I mean, it's like, well, why wouldn't we, right? Like it's a good thing. Why would we keep asking why? Because it's important. Let's keep asking why. I don't even know where this is going. We're going to find out. This is what I love about the goals ladder. And I always do it too, because naturally in our minds, we go to something and we don't really always know how to peel back the layers, to peel back the onion, unless we force ourselves to. Maybe we're starting at the bottom, but most of us, we do not. We jump ahead. Okay. So why do we want to have more meaningful conversations with our family? I want to make sure that the children feel connected and supported and can bring to us any issues that are coming up. Like I want them to know that this is a safe place for anything to be shared. Maybe you're wanting to get in front of issues. You're wanting to help them resolve things. You don't want things to fester. Okay. Well, why do you want that? And again, it's like, well, why wouldn't I want that? Well, maybe it's because you didn't have that. Maybe you didn't have that safe place to have conversations. And then you grew up and you had to go do a ton of therapy. So maybe you're trying to avoid your kids going to therapy. Although, let's be honest, hopefully that's everyone needs therapy, regardless of whether they had the best childhood, because we're all living our own lives. But maybe that's what it is. And maybe you're wanting them to avoid therapy because of your own trauma and issues. The question then becomes, have you dealt with your own trauma and issues? If not, that is actually a far better goal. That's actually going to help you be a better parent and to not project your own stuff on to your kids. They may not need that dinner to actually feel safe with you, to feel like they can bring you anything. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with having those dinners, but maybe there are better ways at achieving the ultimate vision, the ultimate goal, what you're actually trying to go towards. Maybe you need family therapy. Maybe you need to be having very specific conversations, and maybe that has nothing to do with the dinner table. Now, again, you may have totally different reasons. And again, it doesn't mean you change the goal, but being super clear on what it is you're actually trying to achieve and why is going to give you a lot of information about whether or not it actually supports the vision and whether or not you've got the right strategy in the first place. And when you've got that lined up, you are more likely to follow through. Let's do the same thing over here with a podcast. And I want to do this just because it's really important, I think, for you to see that personal and professional, it counts. This is a valid technique for both. All right. So why do you want, I'm always asking these questions. I'm always asking why in Growth Accelerator when I'm helping people with their marketing and sales and their business. It's like, okay, why do you want to have the number one podcast? And someone might tell me, well, if I have the number one podcast, then that means I'm going to have a much bigger reach with a lot more followers. Okay, wonderful. So you want a bigger reach and followers. And I'm going to ask, well, why do you want more reach? Why do you want more followers? Well, if I have more reach, if I have more followers, then I'm going to have more leads. By the way, these could be different answers, right? So if someone says they want the number one podcast, the answer might be because I want to be famous. Or why do you want to have reach and followers? It could be for vanity reasons, right? Like, again, this goes back to there's no right or wrong answer. I'm just trying to give you one example of what it might be. So they want more leads. Okay, well, why do you want more leads? Well, I believe that if I have more leads, I'll be able to have more sales. Great. Why do you want more sales? Well, because I want to make more money for the company. I mean, I think that's an obviously one. Maybe not. We might keep going down, but it's like, I want more money. Okay, great. Why do you want more money for the company? I want to make more money to take home. All right. So more profit, higher salary. Well, why do you want that? Because, like, again, it could be anything: a retirement, a boat, a second house. I want to pay the bills, right? It could be any number of things. And so if we say that it is, let's just come up with something. Let's call it retirement. You want more security. Well, if that's the real reason, there's a hell of a lot of goals that you probably need to be focusing on first and foremost to get that security and that retirement. So while starting a podcast would be one avenue of potentially making more money, you've got not only a lot of different ways to get more reach and followers, you also have a lot of ways to get more leads. You've got a lot of ways to get more sales. You've got a lot of ways to get to better profit. And you've got a lot of ways to start working on your retirement right now, even without that. Again, nothing wrong with having that goal, but you need to understand why you have it in the first place, because there may be far better strategies and far better goals to actually get you towards what you're wanting most. That is hack number 2. All right, hack number 3. And this is the easiest of all of them. It is the easiest of all of them. And frankly, I suspect it's the thing that trips people up the most. It's just about math. Your math's not mathing. It's about focusing. It is about how many goals you are setting to begin with. I try to stick to 3, no more than 3. I've actually got 3 that I'm going to work on at the beginning of the year, and I'm a little concerned that that's too many. What I have done is I've actually narrowed what I'm doing, what the results I'm trying to achieve, the effort I'm putting forth. I'm making it much smaller because I have 3 goals. So here's what happens. At the beginning of the year, people tend to say, I got to do all the things. I got to lose weight. I got to go to the gym. I got to start eating better. I got to start having more dinner with the kids. I've got to start the podcast. I'm going to write that book. I've got to get my sales up. I've got to get this offer out. I'm going to pitch this. I'm going to speak. But Brayton is just like, my goodness gracious. That's a lot of stuff to either stop doing or start doing. And my guess is you're not actually, nothing else in your life is changing. So you are adding on to your already busy schedule. And when people say, well, I can't choose, I have to do this. Well, if you had to do it, you already would have done it. You already would have done it. Here's the thing. I know you want to do it. I know you want the results. And to get the results, you have to be realistic about your capacity. And I'm not just talking about your energy. I'm just talking about your time. I'm talking about your brain. This goes back to those habits in episode 99. Doing all of this is going to require you to rewire some of the neural pathways that you have. And you can't do all of that. You can't. I don't care who you are. You can't. This is how we're going to keep from getting overwhelmed. We're going to focus. They say it takes 66 hours to form a habit. And a whole lot of reaching goals is putting in the reps, putting in the time, putting in the practice, especially when it's ugly. Like you just got to keep showing up even when it does not feel good. So let's assume that for purposes of this exercise, that 66 hours equals reaching one goal. Let's say you have, you come up with however many goals you've got. You've probably already got them in mind. 3 goals, 5 goals, 10 goals. Multiply that by 66. Okay. Now, where is this time coming from? Because my guess is you're already really, really busy, right? So, how many extra hours are you committing each and every day to this new goal? Let's say it's 1 hour, and that's pretty generous, right? 1 hour a day, every single day, 7 days a week. I think we can all agree right now that's not realistic at all, but let's go with it. You are superwoman. Let's go with it. If you spent 1 hour a day for 66 days, nonstop, no breaks, then you would reach your goal after more than 2 months. February's only got 28 days. So you're definitely going to be in March. And if we're being honest, you're not doing it every single day, and you're probably not doing it for an hour. So it's probably going to take even longer than that. But we live in a society where we want to see results. Like we get bored very easily. Putting in hard work without getting results, we're not down for it. So you got to have a really clear vision and a really clear why to keep showing up before you get results. But best case scenario, one goal, you will probably reach it at some point in March. So let's just put, and again, that's aggressive. That is aggressive. It's probably going to take longer than that. So what happens when you got 2 goals and you're doing them at the same time? If we multiply it by 2, that's going to put us in, and by the way, I don't even know if I'm doing this math right. June? Is that right? I think so. Okay, let's say we're going to do 3 goals. That's going to put us in September. Yeah. And if we've got 4 goals, that's going to put us in December. It means you're not going to see results on any of the goals until December. How many of you are willing to put in that amount of work to not see results until the end of the year? Most of us aren't willing to do that. Okay, let me break down this math in case you're like, wait, I'm so confused. All right. I'm assuming that you've got 1 hour a day, 7 days a week. If you have 2 hours a day for 7 days a week, then you could still reach both goals in March. If you have 3 hours a day for 7 days a week, then you could reach all 3 in March. If you've got 4 hours a day, 7 days a week, you could reach all 4 in March. Maybe you've got that kind of time. I don't know. Most of us don't. So what I'm saying is if you truly have 1 hour a day for 7 days a week, you're going to have to split that up amongst the goals that you're trying to reach. That's what we do. We try to start doing them all at once. And so what I'm saying is you're not even going to see the results. If you've got 4, you're not even going to see the results until December. And that is doing an hour a day for 7 days a week. So what's the answer? The answer is to focus on one thing at a time. Because once you've actually developed the habit, it's much easier to maintain. All the tasks that you're doing in your life, everything you got going on right now, like it's a habit. Once you just get into like auto drive. So once you actually reach a certain level of the goal, it's much easier to maintain it and then start a new goal. You could reach one of your goals by March, and then you would start another one in April. Again, you're maintaining the March one. You start a new one and you would reach it by June. Then you maintain both of those. Then you can start a new goal and you can reach it by September. Then you're maintaining all 3 and you'd reach the 4th by December. So it's still the same, but you are far more likely to actually stick through and maintain and start new goals if you are actually seeing results along the way. If you try to do them all at once, then you're not going to see any results until December. And you're going to be like, this is dumb. I don't even know why I'm doing this. I quit. By the way, a lot of goals at the beginning of the year are related to health. If you start working out and you start improving your eating and you get 2-3 weeks in and you're like getting on the scale and you don't see results, you're like, fuck it. What's the point? So this is where, one, you got to have super clear vision because it's going to be hard. And you really need to narrow what you're doing. Now, here's the thing that most people do. They don't even have an hour, or they're trying to do even more things. Or as they're doing it, they have another new idea. And so all of their effort gets scattered so many times that they never really got to see a result in the first place. This is why, like when I'm doing Growth Accelerator, like I make people focus and we stack everything they're doing so that not only is it efficient, but they can see, is it a good strategy and are they going to get results? Like I don't want people throwing spaghetti against the wall all the time because it can feel so defeating and frustrating to put forth so much work and not see results. So those are your 3 hacks. So if you could use some help with any of this, the ways to work with me in 2025, number 1 is I have Joy in the Journey. That is a year-long program. It kicks off in January with a self-guided workbook. And we then meet in person in Arizona, March 2nd through the 5th for a luxury transformational retreat. Every single month, we have mini retreat sessions on Zoom to stay grounded, to stay clear. So this goes back to that vision. It goes back to what do you want? It goes back to getting to the bottom of a why. And this is personally and professionally. Joy in the Journey is all about making sure that you are spending time on yourself and you know what you want and you know why you want it so that you can live a very intentional life and go after the things that are going to matter most to you. The second way that I can help you is through Growth Accelerator. So Growth Accelerator is how I help professionals turned entrepreneurs or professionals who have to grow a book of business. This is where I help you get really clear on your offer, your niche, your messaging, your marketing, your branding, your sales, and having a plan put together that you can fully test for 6 months that is going to be efficient and effective. And then the last way to work with me is my masterminds. And that is working with me long-term. If you want to find out more about the masterminds, it's a bigger commitment, then just send me a DM on Instagram. I'm at Heather Joy Hubbard. If you're interested in Joy in the Journey, just go to heatherjoyhubbard.com/joy in the journey. If you're interested in Growth Accelerator, go to heatherjoyhubbard.com/growth accelerator. There's more information. You can book a call to apply. We have programs starting in January for both. And there will be ongoing programs throughout the year, next year. So the sooner you get in and the sooner we have the conversation, the more likely you are to get in. All right, go crush your 2025 goals. Let's do this. Happy New Year. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, give the episode a like and leave a comment below so we can keep the conversation going. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss a future episode or announcement. Listening on Apple, Spotify, or another podcast app, you can watch the video and join in the after-show conversation by visiting hustleandflowpodcast.com.